The room with no clocks. Imagine this. You're not sleeping yet, but you're not quite awake either. You're somewhere in between, a soft place, a quiet pause, where time no longer pulls on you. You feel weightless, not like flying, but like everything heavy has finally been set down. And in this space, there is a door. You've never seen it before, yet somehow you know it's meant for you. It stands in the middle of nothing. No hallway, no wall, no frame, just a single door in an endless soft gray. The handle is warm. You don't hesitate. You open it slowly. On the other side is a room, not large, not small, just familiar. It's filled with quiet light. No windows, no sound, only a low hum, like the kind of silence that listens back. You step inside. There are no clocks here. Nothing ticks. Nothing counts. Nothing reminds you of where you should be. And yet, you feel completely right here. In the center of the room is a table. On the table are objects, everyday things. A spoon, a single glove, a photo of a hallway with light pouring in, a stone, a broken pencil, a key with no tag. Each one pulses faintly with light. You walk to the table. You don't reach for anything. Not yet, because you understand. These are not things. These are doors. Every object here is a memory, not stored in your mind, but waiting to be remembered. And tonight, you don't just recall them. You can walk into them. You stand still for a moment. Your hand hovers over the key. Then you choose the pencil. Your fingers close around it. It's smooth, worn, familiar, and in the second you touch it, the room folds inward. The floor melts into color. The light stretches and bends. Your eyes blink once, and suddenly you are inside the memory, not watching it, living it. It's a classroom, not current, not recent. You are small again, but not helpless, just soft. The air smells like paper, pencil shavings, chalk. Outside, it's raining. You sit at a wooden desk, too tall for your feet to touch the ground, and in front of you, a blank sheet of paper, the pencil in your hand, the same one from the table, moves slowly. You aren't writing anything important, just drawing lines, loops, shapes that only make sense in your mind. Around you, voices, but they don't press on you. You hear them, but they pass through gently, like wind under a closed door. A teacher walks by, pauses beside you, looks down. She doesn't speak. She just nods once, as if to say, yes, what you're doing matters, even if no one else understands it. And then she walks on. You stay there for a long time, longer than the real moment probably lasted. But here, time is soft. It stretches to hold you. Eventually, you place the pencil down, and as you do, the lines on the page begin to move. They shimmer, shift, and slowly the shapes form into something familiar. A door, not the one you entered through, a new one. It waits at the front of the classroom, lit from behind. You rise, you walk toward it slowly, passing rows of empty chairs that once held names you almost remember. And when you reach the door, you look back, just once, at the little desk, at the page with loops, at the rain on the window. You smile, not because you wish to stay, but because this part of you, this soft, small, imagining part, was never really gone. You open the door and step back into the room with no clocks. The red umbrella, you're back in the room with no clocks. But something has shifted. It's quieter now, not emptier, deeper, like the room is learning to trust you. You step closer to the table again. The objects still rest where you left them, but one now glows a little brighter. A red umbrella, folded neatly, rainwater dripping. Though there's no rain in this room, you reach for it, and the moment your hand touches the fabric, the room exhales, the air bends inward, and the memory welcomes you. Now you're standing on a city street, early evening, wet pavement, the kind that reflects the sky in soft, broken pieces. You're older here, but not quite you. Maybe a version you once were, maybe one you still carry. You hold the red umbrella above your head. Its canopy glows faintly in the streetlight. The sound of rain is steady, not loud, just enough. You walk slowly, not toward anything, just away from something. Your shoes click gently on the sidewalk. There's no one beside you, and yet you don't feel alone, because every droplet feels familiar, as if the rain remembers your name. You pass a bakery. The window is fogged. Inside, a couple shares a pastry, laughing softly. You stop for a moment, watching, not with envy, with recognition. You've been there. Not that bakery. That moment. The kind of moment you forget to notice while it's happening. But remember, forever once it's gone. You keep walking. The red umbrella moves above you like a lantern. You turn onto a smaller street. Cobblestones. Dim lamps. Fewer people. Ahead. A bus stop. You recognize it. Not from memory. From feeling. You've stood there before. And as you approach, you see the shape of someone already waiting. They stand still, facing away. But you know, it's someone you once loved or maybe someone you never told the truth to. You slow. Your heart doesn't race. It listens. You stand beside them, close enough to share the rain's rhythm. They don't speak, neither do you. But the silence isn't empty, it's full, with everything that was never said. The umbrella shelters both of you now. You close your eyes, and in that quiet, you say it. The thing you couldn't back then. Maybe it's, I forgive you, or I'm sorry, or simply, I missed you. You don't know how long you stand there, but when you open your eyes again, they're gone. The bus never came because it didn't need to. This wasn't about leaving. It was about letting go. You look down. The umbrella is closed in your hand, but you're not wet. The rain has stopped, and so has the memory. You turn, and once again, you're back in the room with no clocks. The green bicycle, you've returned back inside the room where nothing hurries, where nothing demands, and nothing keeps score. The room with no clocks. You stand quietly at the edge of the table, the red umbrella now resting still, no longer dripping. Tonight, your eyes fall on something else. Small, child-sized bicycle, green frame, rust on the chain, a sticker half peeled on the side, a shooting star. You place your hand on the seat. It's smooth, cool, and the second your fingers brush the surface, the room fades and the memory lifts you. Now you're outside again, but it's morning, not just any morning. That morning, the one you forgot, but your heart always remembered. The sun is low, the street is quiet, and you are smaller, barely tall enough to reach the handlebars, but determined. You grip the bicycle tightly, wobbling, careful, hopeful. There's a voice behind you, gentle, encouraging, someone you trusted, a parent, a sibling, a version of love that never needed to be explained. They don't hold the bike, not anymore. They've let go, and you don't realize it yet. You're moving forward, hands tight, eyes wide. The world passes slowly. Trees on your left, a garden fence on your right. Your heart beats loud, but you don't panic, because in that moment, you are free. Not fast, not perfect, but free. You look back, they wave, you smile, and then you fall. Not hard, just enough. You scrape your knee, tears well up. The bike clatters to the pavement. You sit there for a second, confused by the quiet pain. Then the hand reaches you, lifts you, dusts you off. They don't scold, they don't fix. They see you, and that, you realize now, was the first time you ever felt safe inside failure. The first time you learned that falling isn't the end, it's the beginning. You pick up the bike. Your hands shake, but your spirit does not. You try again, this time with understanding, with memory, with quiet courage. The wheels turn, the sun rises, and for the first time, you ride without help. And you don't just ride forward, you grow. Now, you're back, in the room with no clocks. The green bicycle rests beside the table now, no longer glowing, but forever sacred. You smile, because you don't just remember learning how to ride, you remember learning how to try again, and that memory rides with you still. The broken watch, the room with no clocks feels different tonight, softer, wider, as if the space has expanded to fit the memories you've begun to carry back with you. The table stands as it always has, unmoved, patient. You approach it slowly. The red umbrella, the green bicycle, they sit still now, silent, honored. And in the center of the table, lying face up, is a small silver watch. Its face is cracked, its hands frozen, stuck at 4:17. You pick it up gently, and the second your thumb brushes the glass, you're sitting in a hallway. The carpet is thin. The light overhead hums with a soft buzz. You know this place, a hospital. You remember the smell. Not bad, just sterile, clean, almost too quiet. You're older than you were with the bicycle, but still young enough to feel the weight of waiting. Someone sits beside you, their hand on your shoulder, but it's not them you're waiting for. It's the person behind the door, the one asleep, or recovering, or just not ready to come back yet. You look down at your wrist. The watch is there, the same silver one. It ticks, slow and steady, but you're not watching the time. You're listening for something, a voice, a laugh, a nurse's footsteps, anything that tells you they're okay. A woman walks past, smiles at you, kind eyes. She doesn't speak, but she places something beside you on the bench, a small carton of juice and a folded note. You don't open the note right away. You're too focused on the door, the moment, the breath you haven't exhaled in what feels like hours. Time stretches here, not like a dream, more like a held breath. And then the door opens. You rise. The figure who steps out is tired, eyes heavy, but they smile. It's the kind of smile you'll remember, longer than their voice, longer than the room, longer than the wait. You take their hand, and in that second, you know something. Time doesn't heal, connection does. Back in the room now, you open your eyes. The watch lies flat in your palm again, but this time, it's not broken. It ticks, once, then stops, and that's enough. You place it beside the umbrella, beside the bike, and you breathe in the stillness of the space. No rush, no noise, just the quiet truth. Not every moment in life gives you joy, but some, even the hard ones, give you meaning, and that is worth remembering. The unsent letter. You're standing in the room again, the one without clocks, the one that never rushes you, the one that waits with the patience of memory. The air feels heavier tonight, not in a burdensome way, in a meaningful way, like something important is ready to be remembered. The table glows faintly. You see the red umbrella, the green bicycle, the silver watch, and now there's something new. A folded piece of paper, yellowed slightly at the edges, ink just visible through the crease. You pick it up. It feels fragile, like something written in a moment that hurt too much to send. You unfold it, and the room vanishes. You're sitting at a small wooden desk, the kind with scratch marks and initials carved into it. It's night. You're in your room, the one you lived in during the years you thought you'd never make it through. A lamp glows beside you, not bright, just enough to see the words. The letter sits open in front of you, written in your handwriting, addressed to someone you once loved, but never got the chance to truly say goodbye to. Your hands rest on the desk, not moving, because this is the moment you remember most. The part where you didn't send it. You read the letter now, word by word. It doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't blame. It just tells the truth about how you felt, what you hoped for, what you feared, how hard it was to hold on to your own voice when someone else's silence took up so much space in your chest. And yet, as you read it again, you feel peace, because even though they never saw it, you did. Even though the letter was never mailed, you wrote it, and writing it was enough. Because sometimes the act of telling your truth, even when no one hears it, is what sets you free. You place the letter back on the desk. The lamp flickers gently. You breathe in, close your eyes, and when you open them, you're back. The room welcomes you again. The letter is still in your hand, but it no longer feels fragile. It feels sacred. You place it gently beside the other memories, and for a long while, you simply stand there. No urgency, no ache, just the still, quiet realization that some healing comes from words we never had to say out loud, but finally gave ourselves permission to feel. The empty swing. You return once again to the room with no clocks. The light feels cooler tonight, gentler, like twilight inside your mind. You notice the letter still resting on the table, but your eyes drift to something else now. A small swing, not a real one, just the wooden seat and its frayed ropes curled on the table's edge, as if waiting to be tied back to a branch. You reach out. The instant your fingers graze the worn wood, you're gone. Now you're outside, in a place filled with soft wind and sunlight that doesn't burn. It smells like grass and summer and childhood. You look down. You're younger again. Maybe 7, maybe 9. Old enough to swing alone, but still young enough to hope someone might push you anyway. You're standing in a quiet playground. No other voices, no footsteps, just the creak of the swing swaying slightly in the breeze. And it's empty. You walk toward it slowly. Sit down. Your feet drag along the dust. You pump once, then again. The rhythm comes back to you, like your body remembered, even when your mind didn't. You swing higher. The air shifts. The world tilts gently. And for a moment, you forget everything else. No school, no noise, no pressure, just the sky, your breath, and the wind through your hair. Then, a shadow appears beside you. Someone pushes you, just once. Not hard, not to make you go higher, just to say, I'm here. You don't look back. You don't need to, because this is someone you loved deeply, someone who left, but somehow still shows up in the quiet places. They push again and again, and with each movement, you remember how comfort used to feel. Simple, unspoken, enough. The swing slows. You hop off gently, turn around. No one's there now. Only the imprint of presence. You kneel in the sand. Draw a small heart with your finger. Let the breeze take it. And then you look up. The doorway has returned. You step through. The room greets you. The swing seat now hangs from a hook on the wall. Still, dry, at peace. You walk to it. Place your hand once more on the rope and say quietly, with no one around to hear, thank you for coming back to push me one more time. Then you let the silence hold it, because some people don't return in form. They return in feeling, and that's how they live on. The library, without names, the room welcomes you quietly tonight. There's something different in the air, a hush even deeper than usual, a stillness that feels thoughtful, as if it knows where you're going next. You step toward the table, the letter, the bicycle, the swing, the watch. They wait, peacefully remembered. But now there's a new item, a single library card, faded, no name, only the word access. You touch it, and everything softens. You walk through large wooden doors. They creak gently as they open. The scent of old paper wraps around you, not musty, warm, like quiet stories waiting to be told. You've stepped into a library, but not one you've ever seen. There are no signs, no numbers, no staff, only shelves, and silence, and air that feels alive with memory. You move slowly, each step cushioned by carpet, each breath deeper than the one before. The books here are not labeled. They don't need to be. You reach for one. The cover is blank. But when you open it, you see yourself, not your face, your moments, pages filled with scenes from your life. A birthday you forgot to remember, a conversation you wished had lasted longer, the last time you played outside without checking a clock. Each page is handwritten, not by someone else, by you. You wrote these, not with pen, with presence, and now you're reading them again. You flip another page. This one shows the moment you didn't speak, when you stayed quiet instead of asking for help. You trace the words with your finger and whisper to yourself, it was okay to be scared. The page absorbs the sentence and softens. You close the book gently, place it back. Another one catches your eye. You open it. This one is filled with laughter, not jokes, not noise, but the feeling of laughter. That moment when your body lets go and your eyes shine and nothing else matters. You read through it slowly and you smile because this one you almost forgot and now it's yours again. You place it back. You keep walking, not searching, just finding. You reach a narrow aisle. At the end, a mirror. No frame, no dust. You step toward it. Your reflection is quiet, but not still. You see the books behind your eyes, the ones you carry, the ones you never knew were there. You touch the glass. It ripples, soft, like water, and a doorway forms behind it. You step through, back in the room, card in hand. You place it gently beside the others, and you breathe out slowly, because now you understand. You are not made of memories. You are made of moments you returned to, and now they are yours again. The closet, full of voices. You return to the room again. It's darker tonight, not cold, not unwelcoming, just quieter, as if the room itself is pausing before showing you what comes next. You approach the table. Some objects feel heavier now, not physically, emotionally. Each one you've touched, you've walked through, and now something new calls to you, a doorknob. It rests alone, detached from any door, worn brass, smooth edges, scratches like fingerprints of time. You close your fingers around it, and the room gently fades. You are standing in a hallway. The floor creaks. The wallpaper is floral, faded. the ceiling low. You know this place. It's a house you once lived in, or maybe visited often enough to remember every inch of it. You face a closet, not a large, not deep, just a hallway. Closet, the kind people open quickly and forget just as quickly. But tonight, you're here for a reason. You place the brass knob into the hole in the door. It clicks into place as if it never left. You turn it. It opens. And inside are coats, shoes, boxes, and beneath it all, sound. You step inside, close the door behind you, and now you hear them. Voices, faint, muffled, not ghosts, memories. The voices of people you once loved, their actual voices. Laughter, questions, the way they said your name. You sink slowly to the floor, surrounded by winter coats and the smell of dust and cedar. And you listen. You hear, "Don't forget your lunch. Be safe. Come here. Let me look at you. It's going to be okay. I'm proud of you." You didn't know you remembered them this clearly. But here, in this tiny space, they're alive again. Not physically, but emotionally. Their tone, their rhythm, the warmth they carried. You close your eyes. Let the voices wash over you. No need to respond. No need to hold on. Just listen. And after a while, they fade. Not all at once. Gently, like a record slowing to stillness. You open the door, step back into the hallway, and you smile, because tonight you didn't relive pain, you relived presence, and now you carry it with you, back in the room with no clocks. The doorknob now rests peacefully beside the card, the swing, the letter. You place your hand over it once more and say, "I remember how they sounded when they loved me," because that sound, even when forgotten, waits quietly for you to come back. The path that wasn't there. Yesterday, you've returned again to the room with no clocks. It feels warmer this time, not because of the air, because of you. Because with each memory you walk through, you seem to come back a little more whole. You pause at the table. Your hand rests gently on the swing's frayed rope. The watch, the letter, the voices. Then you notice it. A small stone, perfectly smooth, almost glowing with a silver sheen. But beneath your hand, it pulses like a heartbeat. You close your fingers around it, and the room unfolds. You're standing in a field. Tall grass brushes your knees. A breeze moves through it, like a song you half remember. It's twilight, the kind of hour that could be sunrise or sunset, but it doesn't matter. And in front of you, there's a path, narrow, winding, barely visible. It looks like it just appeared, like it wasn't meant for anyone until you arrived. You begin to walk it slowly, gently, the stone still warm in your hand. As you move, the path feels familiar in a way that makes your chest ache. You pass a tree with initials carved into it, a gate that never quite closed right, a patch of daisies that seem to smile just for you. Every few steps, you hear something, not words, not sounds, feelings that flutter in your chest before a first kiss, the drop in your stomach before telling the truth, the lift in your heart the first time you heard someone say, "I'm glad you're here." And then you stop because ahead of you is you, younger, wider eyed, standing still in the center of the path. They see you, but they don't look surprised. They smile like they've been waiting. You stand facing each other. No words pass, but you remember something. This is the version of you that once felt left behind, the version you forgot when life got too loud, when the clocks sped up, when being busy became your shield. You take a step forward, and without hesitation, you hug them, not tightly, but wholly. And in that embrace, you feel it. You are both still here, the version of you that once hurt, and the version that now knows how to heal. You pull back. The younger you nods. No tears, just truth. And then they walk forward, past you, down the path. You don't turn to watch, because you understand. They're not leaving. They're becoming part of you again. You open your eyes. Back in the room, the stone now rests on the table, still warm, still softly glowing. You place your hand over it once more and whisper, "I didn't lose myself. I just forgot where I left me." And now you remember the chair that faced the window. You come back to the room, to yourself. The journey feels different now, not like searching, more like gathering. You stand quietly at the edge of the table. The objects have formed their own quiet pattern, not arranged by time, but by meaning. You don't reach for anything. Tonight, the room shows you something instead. A chair, simple, wooden, cushioned, facing away. You walk to it, place your hand on the backrest, and the room dissolves. Like fog lifting in morning. Light, you're in a house, not yours, but one you visited often. There's the scent of something warm in the air. Maybe tea, maybe cinnamon. The room is small, filled with soft things, old photographs, worn books, a blanket folded with care. And there, facing the window, is the chair Someone sits in it. You know who it is. They don't turn. They don't need to. You recognize the slope of their shoulders, the way they hold a cup with both hands, the rhythm of their breathing. You used to sit beside them every visit, every weekend, every quiet conversation that mattered more than you realized at the time. You step closer. The light from the window falls over both of you, golden, dusty, still. You sit on the floor beside them, just like before, and for a while, nothing is said, because nothing needs to be said. This is not a moment of teaching, not a lesson. This is a moment of being seen. They speak, maybe only one sentence, something like, "I always knew you'd come back," and it softens something inside your chest, because you didn't come back for closure. You came back for a continuity, for the thread that never broke. Even when you thought you'd dropped it, you reach for their hand. It's warm, and in that stillness, in that golden window light, you remember how love once felt quiet, simple, constant. You stand. You don't say goodbye, because the memory doesn't need to end. It just releases you. You return to the room. The chair now rests in the corner, still facing the invisible window, and in your heart, a calm you didn't know was missing. You walk to the table, place your palm over your chest, and you whisper, "For no one but yourself." Some love never leaves the room. It just waits for you to notice it again. And tonight, you did. The birthday with no pictures. You return to the room. The space is familiar now, not because it never changes, but because you do. Each time you return, you carry more stillness, more softness, more understanding. The table greets you quietly. Tonight, there's no glowing object, no pull to a specific thing, only a memory that drifts in on its own. It arrives like a scent, or the taste of something you haven't had in years. And then, you're there. It's a birthday. Yours. But not one anyone remembers. Not because it was unkind, because it was simple. No camera, no decorations, just a table, a cake, and a few tired people trying their best. You sit at the table, legs swinging. There's a small gift wrapped in newspaper, a candle in a cupcake. Someone lights it. They smile. You smile too, but it's small, uncertain, because part of you wonders, should there be more? More people? More color? More noise? But then someone sings, quietly, off-key, sincere, and something inside you shifts. You realize this was never about the party. It was about being noticed. And you were, even in the quiet, even in the lack. You blow out the candle. You don't make a wish. You don't need to, because in that moment, you see the eyes of the person who stayed late from work just to make sure this cupcake was there. The hands that wrapped a gift with paper from the recycling bin because they couldn't afford shiny things. The voice that sang even though no one else joined in. You open the gift. It's something small, a book, a toy, a card made by hand. You touch it now, and it touches you back. Because years later, you don't remember the gift itself. You remember that it was given, that someone thought of you in a world that often forgets. And that's what this memory holds. A presence you didn't ask for, but received anyway. You open your eyes back in the room. You walk to the edge of the table. Place your hand down on the empty surface and say, some days don't need to be photographed to be remembered. They just need to be felt once more. And tonight, you did. The closet where you hid. The room is dim tonight. Not dark, just resting. You walk in more slowly now. Not because you're hesitant, but because you've learned how to move without rushing. You know by now, the next memory will come when it's ready, and it does. Not through light, not through sound, but through feeling. A soft tightening in your chest, the kind you used to call fear, but now recognize as return. You close your eyes, and the memory unfolds. You're small again, smaller than you've been in any memory before. The house feels too big, the voice is too loud. You run, not far, just far enough to feel like space belongs to you again. You open a closet door, slip inside, close it quietly. The coats smell like old winters, like protection, like a silence that understands you. You crouch down, hug your knees, and you wait. You don't cry. Not yet. You just wait for the noise to stop, for the world to pause, for someone to notice. But no one does. Not then. And so you begin to talk to yourself, softly, barely above a whisper. You say, it's okay. You're okay. You'll be okay. Over and over. And in that darkness, with no one watching, you become your own comfort. Not perfectly, but enough. You stay there for a long time, long enough for your breathing to slow, and eventually you leave the closet, wipe your face, return to the room as if nothing ever happened. But inside you, that small self stayed there, tucked away, hiding, waiting, hoping someone would come back. And tonight, you did. You're back in the room, and the closet isn't here, but something else is. A folded blanket, the same color as the coat you clung to. You kneel down, place your hand on the fabric, and whisper, I'm here now. I see you. You don't have to hide anymore. And for the first time in a long time, that small version of you breathes freely again. Oh, the phone call. You never returned. The room is very still tonight. No sound, no motion, just presence. You step inside and pause, letting the quiet wrap around you. Something tonight feels heavier, not painful, just dense, like a truth you've carried too long in your chest. You move to the table. The blanket is still there, the swing, the letter, the stone, the card, each resting without need of explanation. But tonight, the object isn't on the table. It's on the floor, a rotary phone, old, dusty, coiled cord twisted like it's been trying to unwind for years. You kneel, place your hand on it, and the room lets go. You're older in this memory, maybe a teenager, maybe just past that. The house is quiet, too quiet, the kind where something is wrong, but no one wants to say it yet. You sit on your bed. The phone rests in your lap. You stare at it. The screen glows faintly. A name displayed that you recognize immediately. The kind that doesn't need a last name. They called earlier. You didn't answer. Not because you were angry, but because you were afraid. Afraid of what they'd say. Afraid of not knowing what you would say. Afraid of what silence might mean if you heard it from their voice instead of your own mind. The voicemail notification blinks once, then again. You don't open it. You tell yourself, I'll call them back later, but you don't. And later never came because life moved, because time doesn't always give us the chance to return with perfect timing, because they didn't call again. And now, years later, you're sitting in this memory, holding the phone, finally listening. You press play. The voice is softer than you remember. They ask how you are. Say they were thinking about you. Say, call me if you can. That's it. No pressure, no guilt, just an opening, and you never walked through it until now. You close your eyes, and in this memory, you pick up the phone. You dial. You don't know what you'll say, but you know this. You'll show up not to fix the past, not to erase regret, but to say, I hear you now. And in that moment, you aren't trapped by what you missed. You're freed by the fact that you cared. Even if you didn't show it in time, you whisper, I'm sorry I didn't answer. I was afraid, but I never stopped thinking about you. You set the phone down, and the memory exhales. You're back in the room. The phone is now whole. No dust, no missed calls, just stillness. You place it gently on the table, and you sit beside it, not to wait, not to speak, just to honor the moment when listening became enough. You place a hand on your chest. The silence doesn't hurt anymore because now you understand. Not every door closes when you miss it. Some stay open in your heart until you're brave enough to walk through them in memory. And tonight, you did. The day you didn't speak tonight, the room greets you before you even arrive. Not with light, not with sound, but with invitation, as if it's been preparing for this moment, for this return. You step in gently. The air feels thicker, but not heavy, more like a blanket that's been waiting to be pulled over your shoulders. You breathe deeply, and the room seems to breathe with you. The table holds familiar items, each one now sacred with memory. But tonight, you don't go to the table right away. You stand in the center of the room and wait, because tonight's memory comes from within. It begins in a hallway. The walls are plain, white, a little scuffed. You've walked them before, many times, but today you walk them differently, because today you carry something inside. You can't seem to speak. You're not sure why. Nothing dramatic happened, no sharp moment, no sudden break, just a feeling, like you don't belong in your own skin, like every word caught in your throat is safer there. You pass people, they talk, laugh, complain about the weather or homework or how late the bus was. You nod when someone greets you, but you don't respond, because today you just can't. You sit in class, watch the clock, take notes, smile when needed. You move through every hour like a shadow, present but fading at the edges. No one asks, not because they don't care, but because the version of you they know doesn't give them reason to. And you don't offer one, because you're not sad, you're not angry, you're just silent. And it's loud in your head. So you go through the day, carry your books, return your tray, wave goodbye. You get home, close the door, and the quiet is finally outside too. You sit on your bed, stare at the wall, and for the first time all day, you say something, just one word. Maybe it's your own name. Maybe it's why. Maybe it's nothing at all. Just breath turned into sound. But it cracks something open. Because now, you remember how much you missed hearing your own voice. You take out your journal. Begin to write. At first it's scribbles, lines, nothing clear. Then words come, then sentences. And somewhere in that page, you write the truth. I didn't speak because I didn't know how to explain what I didn't understand. And that sentence becomes the rope you use to pull yourself back. You don't feel better instantly. This isn't a movie. But you feel seen by you. And that's the beginning. That's when silence stops being a prison and becomes a pause. You open your eyes. Back in the room, a small notepad lies on the table now, its cover bent, the ink inside smudged. You pick it up, turn to the first page. That sentence is there again. I didn't speak because I didn't know how to explain what I didn't understand. You place it back down. Place your palm over it and breathe, because tonight you don't have to explain anything. You just have to acknowledge it. You sit on the floor beside the table, and in the kindest voice you've ever used on yourself, you say it's okay. Some days aren't meant for words. Some days are meant for noticing. And you noticed, and that was enough. And now you rest. The room where you told the truth, you enter the room again. It doesn't feel like returning. It feels like remembering. Each time you come back, you realize the stillness isn't in the room. It's inside you now. Tonight, the light is warm, like the sun through a curtain at the end of day. Not golden, more amber, like something honest. You walk to the table. Every object holds its place. Nothing shouts for your attention. They all simply wait. And then you see it. An open window, not in the wall, in the air itself. A square of light hovering gently, just wide enough to step through. You don't question it. You've learned by now. The strangest paths often lead to the most familiar places. You step forward and walk into the memory. You're older in this one. Not quite now, but close. The memory forms slowly, like mist becoming shape. You're sitting in a room, a small, quiet space, a chair, a table, a clock you're not watching. The kind of room where people speak in softer voices, where the air is calm, so the mind can wander safely. You know this space. It's where you first told the truth, not to someone else, to yourself. You sit across from a person. They ask nothing at first. Just wait. You shift. Look around, then down. And finally, you begin. You talk about the moment everything got too loud. The years you built walls instead of boundaries. The friendships you kept long after they hurt. The days you laughed so no one would ask if you were tired. You say it all, not dramatically, not perfectly, but fully, like your chest has grown tired of holding it in, and the person across from you doesn't interrupt, doesn't solve. They just listen, and in their silence, you start to hear your own voice differently, not like a confession, like freedom. You speak about how you carried guilt for things that weren't yours, how you blamed yourself for the silence in other people, how you learned to be small in rooms where no one made space for you, and slowly you begin to unlearn it word by word, line by line, until finally You say the sentence that changed you. You remember it now. You said, I thought healing meant pretending nothing hurt. But then you paused and added, now I think healing means letting it hurt without hiding from it. And the moment that truth left your lips, the whole room shifted. The air softened. The light grew brighter. Your shoulders loosened, as if years of quiet ache had been unknotted by that one honest breath. You didn't cry that day. You didn't need to, because what you let go of wasn't a feeling. It was the weight of silence. You open your eyes. You're standing back in the room with no clocks, but something feels different. You place your hand on your chest. It feels lighter. You return to the table, and resting there now is a stone, flat, smooth, engraved with a single word, truth. You pick it up. It's warm. You place it beside the others. No ceremony, no sound, just the quiet understanding that tonight you didn't walk into the past to revisit pain. You walked there to recognize your growth. You sit down, not on the floor, not beside anything, just comfortably with yourself, and softly you whisper, the truth didn't set me free, but it gave me permission to stop running. You lean your head back, let your eyes close, and for the first time in a long time, there is no pressure to explain who you are. No need to earn peace. You're already in it. You stay there, wrapped in the stillness of knowing that telling the truth to yourself was the beginning of everything real. And tonight, you returned to it, not because you were lost, but because you finally understood where it all began. The walk you never finished. You enter the room slower this time, not from hesitation, from reverence. The air feels more sacred now, like each breath you take is part of something older, like you're not just visiting a space, you're keeping a promise. The objects on the table no longer feel like items. They feel like stories, folded into form. You run your hand gently across the stone marked truth, then pause, not because you don't know what comes next, but because you do, and you're ready. A pair of worn shoes appears on the table, laces loose, muddy soles. You recognize them, not from a photo, from your body, from the walk you never got to finish. You touch them, and the room melts around you. It's evening, that perfect middle space, not too light, not too dark. A soft breeze stirs your jacket. You're walking, not for exercise, not to arrive, just to move. There's something you're thinking about, something unresolved. You don't remember what exactly, only the weight of it. You're walking through your neighborhood, familiar turns, cracked sidewalks, that tree with the bent trunk. That gate that always squeaked. Everything looks the same, but inside, everything was changing. You didn't know it then, but this was the last time you'd walk this route with that version of yourself. You take a left onto a street with fading streetlights. Each one glows like an old memory, trying to stay relevant. And that's when you see it. Someone's waiting at the corner. You recognize them immediately. It's not a stranger. It's you. But not just you. The version of you that stopped halfway through this walk years ago. The version that turned back. That got afraid. That swallowed what they wanted to say. And now they're still here, still standing in that same place, waiting for the rest of you to come back. You stop. Neither of you speak. But everything is understood. You walk toward them, not quickly, with care. You stand side by side. You feel the hesitation in their posture. You remember it now. The exact reason you didn't keep walking that day. Fear of what you might say, of what you might discover, of what might be true. You take a breath, and then you continue walking, together, step after step, block after block, until you reach the end of the road. It doesn't lead anywhere special, just a bench near a quiet intersection. You both sit. The silence is deep, not awkward, just open. You speak. Maybe for both of you. You say, I didn't come back to finish the walk. I came back to finish showing up. And your past self nods. They rise, and gently they dissolve into you, not vanishing, returning, because you're now strong enough to carry them, to finish what they began, not with regret, with continuity. You return to the room. The shoes are clean now, laces tied, waiting by the door. You walk over, touch them, and whisper, we're not unfinished anymore. You step back, and for the first time in a long time, you feel whole. Not because you've reached a destination, but because you stopped running from where it all paused. And tonight, you walked back in and kept going. The words you almost said. You return to the room again. By now, you no longer ask why or how. You simply walk in like someone coming home. The room greets you, not with sound, not with light, but with permission. Permission to feel what you haven't yet felt, to hear what you once silenced, to speak what was left hanging in the air between two people long after the moment passed. You walk to the table. There's something new resting gently at the center. A folded napkin, frayed edges, ink bleeding slightly through the crease. You recognize it immediately. You remember where you wrote on it and why. Your hand trembles just slightly as you touch it, and the moment pulls you in. You're sitting in a cafe, not busy, not empty, the kind of place where the coffee smells stronger than it tastes, the kind of place where no one's in a hurry, but everyone seems to have somewhere they're going afterward. You're seated across from someone who meant more than you ever said out loud, a friend, a maybe, a moment that never became a chapter. You remember how carefully you picked your words that day, how you tried not to let your voice reveal the tremble in your chest. You both laugh, sip, make small talk feel bigger than it was, but underneath, you carry something. You don't know if they feel it too. You hope they do. You never told them what they meant to you. Not really, because you were afraid. Afraid of shifting the balance, of losing what was already soft and steady, of letting go of the maybe and not being left with anything. So instead, you wrote it down on a napkin, a sentence you never read aloud, words that stayed folded as the check came, as the goodbye happened, as they walked out the door. You meant to give it to them. You did, but you didn't. And now you're holding that napkin again, right here, in this memory. You unfold it. The ink is faded, but the message is clear. You wrote, I think I care more than I'm supposed to. And beneath it, in smaller letters, but I don't want you to feel like you have to fix that. Your breath catches in your throat because you remember what that felt like. Loving someone without needing it to be returned, wanting to share your truth without forcing it into the shape of something else. And so you sit there now in this quiet cafe that no longer exists, at least not like this, and you say the words out loud to the version of them that still sits across from you in memory. I cared. That's all. That's it. That's everything. They don't respond. They don't need to, because this was never about what they'd say back. This was about finally giving yourself the grace of honesty, even if it's late, even if they're gone, even if you never meet again. You fold the napkin, place it in the center of the table, and rise. You walk to the door, and as you reach for the handle, you pause, not with longing, with gratitude, because not all stories end in togetherness. Some end in truth, and that is more than enough. You return to the room. The napkin rests gently on the table now. You press your hand to it, close your eyes, and say, I don't regret not being loved back. I only regret not letting myself speak. But now you've spoken. Now you've said the thing, and it no longer has to live in your chest. It can live here, in the stillness, where memories no longer ache. They just are. You sit quietly, feel the peace settle into your shoulders, and for the First time in a long time, you feel proud of what was almost said, because tonight you finally said it. The drawer you never opened. The room feels different tonight. You can't say why. Nothing looks out of place. The table is where it's always been. The light is soft, familiar, but something about the silence tonight feels heavier, not in a painful way, in an inviting way, like the room is saying, there's one more place you've been avoiding, and deep down, you already know where it is. You move toward the wall, the one that's always been blank. You've walked past it a dozen times, but tonight, there's a small dresser there, one you remember instantly. Wooden, low, 3 drawers. You used to pass it every day in your childhood home. Used to wonder what was inside that bottom drawer, the one no one ever opened. You stand in front of it, and for a moment you hesitate, not because you fear what's inside, but because you sense it will change something. Still, you kneel and pull the drawer open. You're back in your old house. It's quiet, late afternoon. Light spills through the living room window, casting long golden shapes on the carpet. You're alone, not lonely, just unaccompanied. You walk past the couch, past the table, toward the hallway. You reach the dresser, the same one now, here in the memory. The first 2 drawers are filled with things you already know. Old receipts, a sewing kit, some keys you never identified. But that bottom drawer, you always avoided it because it wasn't yours, because it felt like opening, it would be crossing some invisible line. Today, you open it anyway. Inside, a box, small, taped, shut, labeled with your name. Your breath hitches. You don't remember this. You never saw it. You open the box slowly. Inside are pieces of you, things someone else kept. A crayon drawing, folded neatly. A birthday card you gave them. A school photo. A note you wrote in frustration, then threw away. But somehow, they saved it anyway. Each item is quiet, unremarkable, but sacred now, because someone thought they were worth keeping. You sit down, with the box in your lap, and you begin to cry. Not because of what's inside, but because you didn't know you were that loved. Because sometimes we don't realize the small things we share. A look, a drawing, a sentence can become treasure to someone else. You pull out a letter at the bottom of the box. It's addressed to you, not with your full name, just a nickname, the one only they used. You open it. The handwriting is shaky. You recognize it instantly. They wrote, "In case you ever doubted, you mattered here." That's all. Just that. One line, but it's everything. You sit with it, let the words soak into your skin, and slowly the memory begins to fade. Not like it's leaving you, like it's taking its rightful place in your story, in your chest, in your healing. You return to the room. You're still kneeling by the drawer, but now it's open and the box is there. You take the letter out, read it again, then place it gently on the table with all the others: the napkin, the shoes, the stone marked truth, and you whisper to the silence, sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it lives in the drawer no one ever opens. You sit down on the floor, closer to the wall now, closer to that quiet drawer. You press your back against it and breathe, because now you know. Even the parts of you you've forgotten were once remembered by someone else. Even the moments you thought were thrown away were carefully kept in someone's bottom drawer, and even though they're gone now, what they held for you is still here. The song you never admitted was yours. The room feels stiller than usual tonight, not empty, but waiting. You've been here long enough now to sense the shift before anything appears. There's a weight in the silence, a sweetness too, like something important is about to surface, but only if you're willing to sit with it a little longer. You walk to the table. Everything is familiar now. The napkin, the shoes, the drawer is still open, but resting in the center of the table now is an old cassette tape, clear plastic. The label is faded, handwritten, and you know exactly what song it holds. Your hand trembles slightly as you reach out to touch it, and the second you do, you're in your teenage room again. The one with the posters you outgrew, the one that still held on to your childhood in the corners. It's nighttime, late enough that the world has quieted. You lie on your bed, headphones on, volume low, and this song plays again. You've played it too many times. You told people you didn't like it, said it was cheesy, not your style, too emotional, you used to joke. But inside, you clung to every lyric like it knew you. This was the song that saw you when no one else could. The one that said the things you didn't know how to say. Not out loud. Not yet. You remember the exact lyric that used to undo you. It wasn't the chorus, not the high note. It was the quiet line tucked in the second verse, the one that whispered, "Some nights I pretend I'm not waiting to be found." You played it again and again, not to feel sad, to feel understood. You sit up in your old bed. The light from the stereo glows faintly, and for the first time, you hum along out loud. No one hears you, but it's the first time you let yourself admit this song is yours. It isn't about what's trendy. It isn't about what others might think. It's about being held when nothing else made sense. You rewind it again, and when it finishes this time, you don't play it again. You just sit in the quiet after, the kind of quiet that only comes after truth. You return to the room. The tape is still in your hand. You smile to yourself because now you don't have to hide that song. You don't have to pretend your softness doesn't exist. You place the cassette down gently beside the letter, the swing, the stone-marked truth. Then you sit, and in the most gentle voice, barely above a whisper, you sing the lyric one more time. Some nights I pretend I'm not waiting to be found. And then you say, but tonight I don't have to pretend. Because tonight you're not waiting. You're remembering. You're reclaiming. You're finally letting yourself be known by the one person who matters most. You. You sit with that. You let it echo. You let it stay. Because the song doesn't need to play again. It lives in you now, and that's enough. The birthday card you never sent. The room feels stiller than usual tonight. Not empty, but waiting. You've been here long enough now to sense the shift before anything appears. There's a weight in the silence, a sweetness too, like something important is about to surface, but only if you're willing to sit with it a little longer. You walk to the table. Everything is familiar now. The napkin, the shoes, the drawer is still open. But resting in the center of the table now is an old cassette tape, clear plastic. The label is faded, handwritten, and you know exactly what song it holds. Your hand trembles slightly as you reach out to touch it, and the second you do, you're in your teenage room again. The one with the posters you outgrew. The one that still held on to your childhood in the corners. It's nighttime, late enough that the world has quieted. You lie on your bed, headphones on, volume low, and this song, plays again. You've played it too many times. You told people you didn't like it, said it was cheesy, not your style, too emotional, you used to joke. But inside, you clung to every lyric like it knew you. This was the song that saw you when no one else could. The one that said the things you didn't know how to say. Not out loud. Not yet. You remember the exact lyric that used to undo you. It wasn't the chorus, not the high note. It was the quiet line tucked in the second verse. The one that whispered, "Some nights I pretend I'm not waiting to be found." You played it again and again, not to feel sad, to feel understood. You sit up in your old bed. The light from the stereo glows faintly, and for the first time, you hum along out loud. No one hears you, but it's the first time you let yourself admit, this song is yours. It isn't about what's trendy. It isn't about what others might think. It's about being held when nothing else made sense. You rewind it again, and when it finishes this time, you don't play it again. You just sit in the quiet after, the kind of quiet that only comes after truth. You return to the room. The tape is still in your hand. You smile to yourself because now you don't have to hide that song. You don't have to pretend your softness doesn't exist. You place the cassette down gently beside the letter, the swing, the stone marked truth. Then you sit, and in the most gentle voice, barely above a whisper, you sing the lyric one more time. Some nights I pretend I'm not waiting to be found. And then you say, but tonight I don't have to pretend, because tonight you're not waiting, you're remembering, you're reclaiming, you're finally letting yourself be known by the one person who matters most. You. You sit with that. You let it echo. You let it stay. Because the song doesn't need to play again. It lives in you now. And that's enough. The goodbye that never happened. You enter the room again. But this time, it doesn't feel like a return. It feels like an arrival. Like you finally reached the part of yourself that waited the longest. The silence is familiar now. So is the light. So is the way your breath naturally slows the moment you step in. You move to the table. Everything that came before is still here. The napkin, the stone, the envelope, the drawer, the shoes, the song. But tonight, the memory isn't attached to an object. It's already inside you. It's been waiting, not on the table, but in the back corner of your heart, tucked under folded layers of maybe someday, and I'll deal with it later. But now, later, has become now. And so, you sit, you close your eyes, and the memory begins. You're in a hospital room, or maybe a home. You're not sure. The details blur, but the moment, it's sharp. Someone you love is there, lying down, eyes closed. Their breathing is uneven, soft, faint. You remember the way their hand looked against the blanket, pale, still. You're sitting beside them, one chair, no noise. You didn't know this would be the last time. No one ever says, this is your final visit. You were supposed to come back the next day, or call later, or bring that book they liked, or say the thing you kept rehearsing in your head. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I remember. But you didn't say any of it. You sat quietly, afraid. Your voice would crack, afraid it would make it real. And then you left. You told yourself you'd come back. And then you couldn't. They were gone. And the words? They stayed inside. And tonight, they still ache. But now, you're here. and so are they. You open your eyes, and in this memory, they're sitting across from you, not sick, not fading, whole, alive in the way people become when you see them with memory instead of vision. They smile, the same smile you always missed the moment it was gone. And you speak. You say everything you never did. You say their name. You thank them. You tell them how much their voice shaped you, how their kindness stayed in your skin. You say, I didn't know how to say goodbye, so I pretended I wouldn't have to. And they nod because they understand, because they always did. You hold their hand. It's warm. You sit together in silence, but this silence is different. It isn't filled with regret. It's filled with presence, with truth, with the peace that comes from finally saying what your heart never stopped carrying. You rise. They stand too. You embrace. No tears, just release. And then they walk away. No fading, no disappearing. Just a quiet return to wherever memory keeps them safe. You open your eyes. Back in the room, there's no new object on the table, only space. You walk to it, place your hand on the wood, and whisper, I never said goodbye, but I never stopped loving you. And somehow, that feels like a goodbye after all. A soft one, a real one. You sit down. The room breathes with you, and in that stillness, you feel something leave your chest, not like a loss, like a blessing, like something you were meant to carry until you were ready to let it rest. And now, you are the room. You never revisited. You step into the room with no clocks once more. But this time, you pause at the door, not because you're afraid, because you already know. Tonight is different. You're not here to find an object. You're not here to walk through a single memory. You're here to return to a place you've avoided longer than you even realized. You take a slow breath. The room breathes with you. Then you walk to the far wall, the one that's always been bare, always silent, but not tonight. Now there's a door. It's not glowing. It's not grand. It's just there. A quiet, honest thing. You reach for the handle, and when your fingers touch the metal, you feel it. The weight of years. Not pain, not regret, just the gravity of something important. You turn the handle, step through. You're in a room, not a memory of a moment, a memory of a place. This was where you spent time. When time didn't seem to move forward, maybe it was after a heartbreak, maybe during a loss, maybe when the world felt too big and your heart felt too small to survive inside it. It's a bedroom, maybe yours, maybe borrowed, quiet, faint light coming through the blinds. The bed is unmade. There's a book on the nightstand you never finished. Everything is exactly as you left it. You walk slowly around. You remember how long you stayed here, not physically, emotionally. This is the place where you disappeared from yourself for a while, where you went quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you didn't know if your voice still mattered. You sit on the edge of the bed. The silence here is thick but familiar. You remember the nights you curled into yourself, the days you didn't answer messages, the mornings you stood in the shower just to feel the water remind you that you were still here. You never hated this place. You just never came back to it. Because when you finally left, you told yourself never again. But now, you're here, not trapped, not broken, just returned. You sit a while longer, and for the first time, you don't rush to leave. You lean back on your elbows. You look at the ceiling. You say the thing no one else ever heard from you during that time. I was trying. Even when it didn't look like it, you say it again. Slower, louder, because it's true. Even if you weren't okay, you were trying to be. And that effort, that quiet survival, it deserves to be seen. You rise, walk to the mirror in the corner, look at yourself, and instead of judging who you were back then, you nod as if to say, you did what you could, and that was enough. You place a hand on the wall. Feel the hum of memory soften beneath your palm. And when you turn back, the door is open. You step through, back in the room with no clocks. But something has changed. The far wall now holds a window. It looks out into a soft sky. Colors not quite day, not quite night. You smile, because now you've made peace not just with people or moments, but with places, the ones inside you, the rooms you once closed without saying goodbye. You walk to the table, place your hand down, and whisper, I won't pretend I didn't disappear for a while, but I came back, and I'm still coming back. You close your eyes, let the silence surround you, and for the first time, you feel like there's nowhere left to run from, only places worth returning to. And tonight, you returned to yourself, fully, finally, gently. The garden where time stopped. The room is quiet tonight, not because it's empty, not because it's still, but because the quiet feels alive, the kind of silence that makes your skin hum, like it's ready to welcome something new. You step inside, but tonight you don't walk to the table first. Instead, you look around, and then you see it, a door, not an ordinary door. It's golden. A soft light radiates from the edges. It's not open. It doesn't need to be. You've waited for it. Even if you didn't know it, you move toward it. hand outstretched, and when you touch the handle, the room shifts. You're standing outside, not in a place you recognize, but in a place you feel you've always known. The air is warm, the sky stretches, full of fading light, but somehow timeless. You stand in the middle of a garden, but not a wild one, not an overgrown one. A garden that feels held, tended to, respected. The path beneath your feet is cobblestone, not new, not old, just perfectly worn. There are flowers here, not just any flowers, ones that don't need tending, ones that grow without hurry. And there, at the center of it all, is a bench, the kind of bench you'd sit on for hours without needing to fill the time. It's waiting, and so are you. You walk to it, sit down. The moment you do, everything stills, and the first truth hits you softly but clearly. Time doesn't need to be measured to be felt. You've spent years rushing through moments, wondering why they never seemed to last. But now you realize some moments don't leave. They just stay in you. They settle inside your chest, in the space where your heartbeat doesn't need to count minutes. They stay in your spirit, in your bones, in the way you breathe. And this garden, this place, is where time didn't pass by you. It passed through you. You close your eyes, let the breeze brush your skin, and you remember the first time you held something, not with the intention of keeping it, but with the intention of simply receiving it. The warmth of the sun on your face, the laughter you shared with friends without ever planning it, the silence of a room that wasn't empty, just full of everything you needed in that moment. You let the memory soak into your bones, and then something shifts. You feel the softness of the petals on the flowers beside you. You run your fingers through them, and as you do, they seem to bloom brighter. No one's watching, no one's judging. You're simply here, and for the first time in a long time, you realize you don't need to chase the moments that leave. You just need to nurture the ones that stay. Back in the room with no clocks, the garden is gone, but you're not alone anymore. You feel the room with you, not around you, and you understand now. Some gardens grow inside of us, even when the world rushes past. You walk to the table, place your hand down on the napkin, the letter, the stone, and you whisper, "Time never really passed me by. I just learned how to stop and receive it." You sit in the peace of that, and you realize this wasn't about trying to stop time. It was about finally learning how to let it be. And tonight, you did. The mirror that refused to reflect. The room is open now. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. There are no shadows hiding anymore, no corners left unexplored, and yet you know there's still one place left to visit. You walk across the room, not searching, but knowing. On the far side, a full-length mirror now stands where nothing stood before. It's not ornate, it's not glowing, it's simple, framed in soft wood, surface completely clear, except you're not reflected, not at first. You stand in front of it, look closely, but where your reflection should be, there's something else. Moments, images, scenes, pieces of yourself you never dared to look at fully. And now the mirror shows them back to you. You see yourself on a day when everything fell apart. The version of you who hid behind a smile. The version who showed up when they didn't have the energy but couldn't say no. The version who walked away instead of asking to be held. The version who stayed when they should have left. And for a moment, your heart aches, not with judgment, but with tenderness, because every version of you, even the ones you tried to forget, were doing their best. You watch the scenes unfold in the mirror. You, as a child, clutching your backpack in a hallway, unsure where to go. You as a teen, staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never came. You in early adulthood, trying to become what everyone else needed, and forgetting what you needed. You today, still healing, still carrying, still soft, still here. You reach toward the mirror. Your hand touches the glass. It's warm, and the reflections begin to shift again. Now, you see something else. Not who you were, who you are becoming. You see the quiet strength in your silence, the gentleness in how you move now, the way you pause before responding, the way you finally ask for help, the way you forgive yourself, not all at once, but more than you used to. You see the truth of you, not filtered, not fixed, whole. And finally, the mirror reflects your actual face, but not how it looks, how it feels. Kind, tired, but honest. Worn in the way that only love and time can create. You step back, and the mirror fades. Not because it's hiding, because it's finished. It's given you what you came for. You return to the center of the room. Sit beside the table. You place your hand over your heart, then over the surface of the wood, and you whisper, I no longer need a reflection to know who I am, because you've seen it, all of it, and now you don't need to be afraid of your own becoming. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you feel everything slow, not because the world changed, because you did. You softened enough to look in the mirror and didn't flinch. You stayed long enough to recognize that everything you ran from was waiting to love you back. The letters you wrote, and never read again. The room no longer surprises you, it welcomes you. It doesn't ask you to enter, it simply opens, and tonight, you don't just arrive in the room, you belong to it. The air feels like the inside of a deep breath. Everything rests in stillness, as though time itself has curled up here to rest. You approach the table, but this time, there's no need to look for anything. The memory finds you, softly, patiently. Your hand drifts toward a small wooden box. You know it without opening it. It holds every letter you ever wrote, but never sent. Every journal entry you never read again. Every thought you once carved out in ink, then folded away for another day. Today is that day. You lift the lid, and you're no longer in the room. You're sitting on your bedroom floor. It's late, the kind of late where the air is thick and the night feels like it could last forever. There's a stack of papers in front of you, your handwriting, your words, your heart, raw, unfinished, but sincere. These letters were never for anyone else. Some addressed to no one, some to people who would never read them, some to yourself. You remember how it felt to write them, the way your pen moved faster when the ache got louder, the way you paused between sentences as if the page could listen, the way it felt like you were bleeding safely, like pain was becoming ink, and that made it okay. You pick one up. The paper is creased, the corner slightly torn. You wrote it during a night you almost gave up. You don't read the whole thing. You just scan for the feeling. And there it is. That quiet desperation. That line where you said, I don't know what else to do, but write this down. You hold it gently, not with shame, with reverence, because you didn't give up. You wrote instead. And that was everything. You pick up another. It's a letter to someone you once loved, someone who left quietly, or maybe you're the one who left. You wrote, I wish I had known how to stay without shrinking. You close your eyes, breathe it in, then let it go. You don't need to rewrite it. You just needed to return to it. One by one, you sift through them, not to judge, not to edit, just to witness, because that's what you needed most when you wrote them. Someone to say, I see you, and tonight, that someone is you. You return to the room. The box is still open, the letters still inside, but they no longer feel heavy. They feel held. You close the lid gently, not to hide the past, to honor it. You place your hand on the top of the box and whisper, I don't need to send these letters. I just needed to remember I wrote them. Because what you once put on paper, you now carry in understanding. And maybe you'll never show them to anyone. Maybe they'll always remain between your heart and the page. But now, They're no longer buried. They've been seen, and in that seeing, they've been set free. You sit with that feeling, that gentle release, and you realize this was never about needing answers. It was about returning to the parts of you that once felt too fragile to speak and letting them know you hear them now. The friend you grew apart from, you walk back into the room, but it doesn't feel like walking anymore. It feels like continuing, like you're no longer stepping into memory. You're weaving through yourself, picking up threads you once thought were too tangled to hold. Tonight, the room feels stiller than usual. Not cold, not distant, just honest. There's no music, no movement, just quiet air and the soft hum of something unspoken. You look toward the table. Nothing new sits on it. Instead, your eyes are drawn to the floor, to a pair of friendship bracelets, tangled together, one frayed at the edge, the other still knotted tightly. You remember them instantly, and the moment returns. It was a sunny afternoon, that kind of light that made everything feel important, even if you didn't realize why at the time. You were laughing, not because of a joke, just because laughter used to come easier in their presence. This friend, this person, was once your everything. They knew your favorite songs, your secrets, your silence. You finish each other's thoughts, and sometimes didn't need to speak at all. You wore matching bracelets, made from string, tied together on a day you promised not to forget each other. And for a while, you didn't. You shared your worst days, walked through heartbreaks, dreamed about futures in which you never drifted. But time doesn't ask permission to move, and people grow or stay the same. And sometimes that's enough to make even the deepest roots loosen. It wasn't one fight, not one moment, just space. You started texting less, started speaking in shorter sentences, started filling the silence with assumptions. You wanted to call them, but didn't know what to say. They wanted to reach out, but assumed you were fine. And in the quiet, where friendship used to live, distance grew like ivy, slow, quiet, persistent. You didn't fall out. You just faded. And the bracelet, you tucked it away. Not because it didn't mean anything, because it meant too much. You were afraid of what it would make you feel. But now, here in the room that asks nothing of you, you pick up both bracelets. You untangle them, thread by thread. You sit on the floor, let the memory sit beside you, and you say, out loud, you didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I. We just changed. The air doesn't shift, because the truth doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes it just settles in. You tie the bracelets together, not into a loop, into a knot, a symbol of a chapter that shaped you, even if it didn't follow you to the end. You return to the room. The bracelets now rest at the center of the table. You run your finger along the woven strands and say softly, "You mattered to me. You still do, even if we don't share this season." And in that moment, you feel something lift, not like letting go, more like letting be. Because not all friendships last, but all friendships leave something behind, a phrase, a lesson, a softness, a knowing that at one point in time you were seen and someone showed up for you without needing a reason. And that's enough. You sit with the memory, not as a regret, but as a gift. And tonight, you don't wish to go back. You simply whisper, "Thank you," even if we never say it to each other again. The moment you realized you were enough tonight, the room greets you like an old friend. There's no ceremony, no sudden light, no grand unveiling, just the quiet comfort of being seen without needing to explain who you are anymore. You take a breath, and the room seems to breathe with you. You're not searching now. You're simply ready. And in the center of the table, resting softly, quietly, humbly, is a mirror shard. Just one. No frame, no reflection, yet something in you already knows. This is the piece you've avoided longest. The part not about others, not about what you've lost or missed. This one's about you and what you once forgot to believe. You touch it, and the memory unfolds. It was a regular day, not marked by any celebration, not lit with any spotlight. You were alone, but not lonely, just quiet. It might have been after something difficult, a failure, an argument, a slow build of invisible weight you carried for too long. You remember looking in the mirror, not to check how you looked, not to fix anything. You just looked. And for the first time, you didn't search for what was wrong. You didn't try to compare or shrink or improve. You just stared back at tired eyes, at a soft face, at someone who'd made it through more than anyone realized. You didn't say anything out loud, but in your chest, you heard it. A voice that wasn't loud, wasn't poetic, just real. It whispered, "I think I'm okay." And for you, at that time, that was revolutionary, because the world had told you to keep chasing, to keep fixing, to never stop improving. But right there, in that breath, in that pause, you let yourself just be. You didn't need a reason. You didn't need approval. You didn't need anyone else in the room. For once, you allowed the possibility that you weren't broken, that maybe, just maybe, you were enough. You didn't cry. You didn't fall to your knees. You simply took a breath, and for the first time, it filled your lungs all the way, not because anything was solved, because you stopped running from yourself, from the belief that you needed to earn love, from the idea that you had to prove something to be whole. You returned to the room. The mirror shard is still in your hand, but now you see your face in it, not perfectly, just enough, and what you see makes you smile, not because it's flawless, because it's yours. You place the shard down gently, and with one hand on your heart, you say, I'm not a project, I'm a person, and that is enough. You sit down, not in exhaustion, but in rest, a quiet, earned kind of rest, because tonight you didn't reclaim a memory, you reclaimed yourself. And as you close your eyes, you realize something softly powerful. The greatest memory you'll ever hold is the one where you finally stopped needing to be anything else and simply were. The apology you never received. The room welcomes you with stillness, but not an empty stillness, a knowing one, as if the air understands that tonight you're holding something tender, not heavy, not loud, just quietly unfinished. You walk in slowly, not hesitantly, intentionally. The objects on the table seem to glow softer tonight. The bracelets, the mirror shard, the envelope, each one a chapter, each one a truth you finally let yourself touch. And now there's something new, a letter, unopened, unaddressed. The paper looks untouched, but somehow worn by time, like it's waited for years to be acknowledged. You pick it up. You know what it is before you even open it. It's the apology you never received. And tonight, you let yourself read it anyway. You're back in a memory, one you never revisit by choice, not because it hurts the most, because it's the one that leaves a space behind, a space that never got filled. It was a conversation, or maybe the end of one, a moment when someone hurt you with their silence, their absence, their words. Maybe it was all of them at once. They didn't slam a door. They just closed it quietly, and you waited for them to turn around, to look back, to say, I'm sorry, but they didn't. And the memory, it became a bruise that never bloomed fully because you kept pressing down on it, hoping one day it would turn into clarity. You see yourself now in that old room, standing, still, trying not to cry, trying to hold your dignity in a shaking body. You re-watch the moment they walked away, how you pretended it didn't matter, how you practiced your smile, how you rewrote the scene so many times in your head. Each version included them turning around, but they never did until now. Because in this memory, you let yourself imagine it, not to rewrite the past, but to complete it. They step forward, no grand gesture, No flowers, no speech, just sincerity. And they say, I was wrong, and you didn't deserve that. You were worthy of kindness, and I didn't offer it. You don't interrupt. You don't jump to forgive. You just receive, because this apology, it isn't theirs anymore. It's yours. You've waited long enough, and tonight you let it arrive, not to excuse them, not to explain it away, but to finally allow your heart to release the space it's been holding open for closure. You look them in the eye and gently respond, you should have said this then, but I'm saying something now. I don't need it anymore. And the moment dissolves, not into pain, into peace. Back in the room, the letter now sits open, blank still, but lighter. You place it back on the table, and this time you say out loud, I won't keep waiting for the sorry that never came, because I already healed without it. You rest your hands in your lap, and something in your body, something small and tight and hidden, finally lets go. You close your eyes and whisper, I'm proud of how I kept going, even without the closure I deserved. And tonight, that's what this room gave you. Not an apology, but the freedom to stop needing one. The laughter. You forgot to remember. The room feels lighter tonight, not because the journey is ending, but because something inside you is opening. You walk in, and the stillness greets you gently. The air holds less tension now. The objects on the table don't carry the same ache. They carry peace. And for the first time in a while, you feel joy start to wake up beneath your ribs. Not the kind that rushes, not the kind that needs to be seen, the kind that quietly says, I'm still here. Your eyes are drawn to the table where a small object rests, a photo strip, black and white, edges curled. You pick it up, and the memory comes rushing in like sunlight through an open curtain. You're somewhere loud, somewhere playful, maybe a carnival, a school hallway, an old shopping center. Wherever it is, it doesn't matter, because what matters is how it felt. You were with someone who made you laugh without even trying, the kind of laughter that takes you by surprise, the kind that lifts from your belly, not your head, the kind that feels like belonging. You're standing in a photo booth, you and them, pressed shoulder to shoulder, laughing because neither of you know how to pose, laughing because the machine beeps before you're ready. One photo comes out perfect, 3 are blurry, one catches you mid-laugh, eyes half closed, mouth wide open, and it's your favorite because it's real. Later, you'd stuff the strip into a drawer, tape it to a notebook, or forget where you put it. But the moment, it stayed. It stayed in the way you laughed louder that week, in the way you felt safer just being you. Years passed. They moved away. Or you did. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe everything did. But the laughter faded, not from pain, from time, because sometimes joy doesn't announce when it's leaving. It just slips away quietly, waiting to be remembered again. Now, you're back in the booth, older, quieter, but the memory is still alive. They're still beside you. You both lean in again. This time, you don't pose. You just laugh. You let the camera flash, and you freeze the feeling for yourself this time. Because now, you know how sacred it is. Not the photo, the moment. Back in the room with no clocks. The photo strip is still in your hand, but now you see something different in it. Your joy, your ease, your freedom. You place the photo gently beside the others, and you say softly, I didn't forget how to laugh. I just forgot to look for it. You sit, close your eyes, and the sound comes back. That small, bubbling laughter, yours, theirs, and suddenly, the whole room feels warmer because joy is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it waits, and tonight, you remembered where it was. You smile and whisper, I'm allowed to keep the moments that made me feel alive, even if they're gone, even if they were small. And you do. You hold them softly, and they hold you back. The moment you stopped chasing, someday you return to the room. But something's different tonight. It's quieter. Yes. Still, yes. But beneath that stillness, you feel something deeper. Readiness. Not urgency. Not anticipation. But a quiet sense of knowing that you're closer now. To yourself. To peace. To something you've been moving toward without realizing. You walk in slowly. The table greets you, like always. Its objects no longer feel like separate memories. They feel like you, each one a page from the same book. And tonight, another page is ready. But this one isn't an object. It's a question. It appears as light on the floor, letters forming, softly, glowing for only you to see. What were you waiting for? The room doesn't answer, because it knows only you can. And suddenly, you're back in the moment. It was a quiet afternoon. Ordinary. Nothing extraordinary happened, but that's what made it matter. You were sitting alone, maybe on a train, a cafe, the corner of your bed. You had a list in your mind, all the things you were going to do. Someday, when it made more sense, when you were ready, when you felt more confident, when you had the time. Someday, I'll call them back. Someday I'll start writing again. Someday I'll travel there. Someday I'll stop apologizing for taking up space. And in that moment, you paused because something inside you whispered, what if someday is a trick? Not a lie, but a delay, a way to stay safe, even when safety no longer felt like living. You sat in that thought, let it ache a little, then you stood up, and for the first time, you didn't wait. Maybe you wrote the first sentence. Maybe you sent the text. Maybe you stood taller when you walked into the room. It wasn't big, but it was everything, because it was now. And now became the moment you started living differently. Back in the room with no clocks. The question is still glowing on the floor. What were you waiting for? You smile, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally stopped needing them. You walk to the table, place your hand down gently, and whisper, I was waiting to be ready, but it turns out showing up is what makes you ready. This light on the floor fades, not because the question is gone, because it's been answered, and your answer was enough. You sit, feel the weight of someday drift off your shoulders, and you breathe in this moment, not the next one, not the wish, not the plan, this one. And that is where your life lives now, the version of you that never got a voice. The room is soft tonight, not just quiet, not just slow, soft, like it's wrapped in wool, like even your thoughts need to speak in a whisper. You step in gently, as if you're entering not a memory, but a sanctuary. There's nothing new on the table, no object glowing, no invitation hanging in the air, only a chair, placed gently in the corner, facing away. You walk to it slowly, and something inside you already knows. Someone is waiting. You take a breath, place your hand on the wooden backrest, and as your fingers curl around the grain, the chair turns, and you see you, not who you are now, not a version you remember clearly, but the version that never spoke. They look up at you, not surprised, not angry, just tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from not sleeping, but from not being heard. They don't say anything, but they don't need to, because suddenly you feel it. Every moment you swallowed your opinion, every day you dimmed your light so someone else could shine. Every conversation you left, wishing you'd said what was really on your heart. They lived through all of that, and you never asked them how it felt. Until now, you kneel beside the chair, take their hand, and you listen, not to words, to feeling. You feel the loneliness of being agreeable just to keep peace, the exhaustion of being easy to love while hiding your needs, The ache of waiting for someone to ask, "What do you want?" and never hearing it. You sit with it, let it sting, not to punish yourself, to witness it, because this part of you, this version that never got the mic, they don't need validation, they just need space. You take a breath and you speak, not an apology, in honesty. You didn't ask for too much. You asked too quietly. They look at you, not with blame, with hope, because even now, after all this time, they believe you can still listen. You sit on the floor beside them and say, "I promise, you get a voice now." And for the first time, they smile. You return to the room. The chair remains, but it's no longer turned away. It faces the center, now a part of the space, a part of you. You walk to the table, rest your hand beside the mirror shard, the bracelets, the photo strip, and you whisper, "Every time I speak what I truly feel, I honor the version of me who couldn't." And you do, and you will. Because tonight, the voice you once buried has come home, and now you'll carry it forward, not as a shadow, but as your strength. The door you kept closed, even to yourself, you return to the room. But this time, you don't pause. You don't wait for something to reveal itself. You don't search the table. You simply walk, as if the room itself is guiding you. And maybe it is, because tonight isn't about remembering what happened. It's about remembering what you hid. There's a small hallway now, one that wasn't there before, narrow, dim, lined with worn floorboards that creak like old bones. You follow it. At the end, a door, wooden, unmarked, locked, but not with a key, locked with something deeper. You know this door. You've stood in front of it many times, not in dreams, but in life. Moments where you felt something coming up inside you, only to push it back down. Moments you avoided asking yourself what was really wrong. Because this door, it holds not the past, it holds the parts of you that still scare you, the rage, the shame, the failures you never named, the desire you thought you didn't deserve, the version of you who didn't fit into anyone's story, not even your own. You reach for the handle, and this time you don't flinch. You turn it and step in. The room behind the door is dark, not from fear, from privacy. This is the place where you buried what felt too much, too sad, too loud, too messy. You walk slowly. There's no furniture, no photos, just air, thick with everything unsaid. And then you see them, a version of you sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around their knees, eyes hollow with silence, They don't look at you. They're used to being ignored, but you sit beside them anyway. You don't touch. You don't speak. You just exist beside them. For the first time in years, this part of you isn't alone. Minutes pass, or maybe hours, and finally they look up. Their voice is small, hoarse from disuse, and they ask, "Are you sure you want to see all of me?" You nod, because you are, because you're done pretending that only the beautiful parts of you deserve to be loved. They reach behind them, pull out a box. It's heavy. Inside, memories you didn't allow yourself to keep, the mistakes that still wake you up at night, the dreams you gave up on because someone told you they were silly, the love you gave away without ever asking for it back, the anger you never admitted you carried. You sift through them one by one. You don't fix, you don't reframe, you feel, and as you do, something extraordinary happens. The room begins to glow, soft, dim, like a sunrise just beginning, because truth, even when it's hard, brings light. You turn to them and say, gently, "You weren't too much. You were too alone, and I'm here now." They cry. You do too. Not from pain, from reunion, from the quiet joy of being accepted. Without being edited, you step back into the main room. The hallway is gone, but you are not. You are here, all of you, not perfect, not complete, but together. You walk to the table. There is no object to place, only a truth to speak. So you sit down, place your palms face up on your knees, and whisper, "Nothing in me is too much, not anymore." And the room exhales as if it has been waiting years to hear that. The last room, and the light that waited, you return to the room for the last time. But tonight, it doesn't feel like a return. It feels like a homecoming. The door opens without you touching it. The light inside is warm, the soft kind that wraps itself around your skin like a blanket that knows every part of you. You step in slowly, not because you're unsure, but because you want to savor this. Everything feels familiar now. The table, the walls, the air, the stillness. But something's different. The room is full tonight, not of people, not of noise, but of presence. Every memory you've ever visited here rests in its place, not like exhibits in a museum, but like guests who stayed because they were finally seen. You walk slowly. Each step feels like a heartbeat, measured, intentional, honest, and as you pass the table, you see it. Every object you touched along the way, the letter never sent, the unsaid goodbye, the red umbrella, the bicycle, the photo strip of laughter The bracelet tied in friendship, the drawer you never opened, the napkin, the song, even the mirror shard is still there. But it no longer reflects fragments. It reflects you, whole. You walk to the center of the room, and the light begins to shift. Not brighter, not harsher, just wider, as if the room is opening, stretching, welcoming more of you in than ever before. And you know what's happening now. It's time not to forget, not to leave, but to gather. The floor beneath you becomes soft, like grass, like memory turned into earth. You kneel, close your eyes, and one by one they come. Every version of you from every room. The child with scraped knees and big dreams. The teenager with too much silence in their chest. The friend who was left behind. The lover who never got closure. The seeker, the hider, the fighter, the writer, the listener, the one who almost gave up, the one who laughed the loudest, the one who stayed in bed all day, the one who survived things no one knew. They all sit with you now, around you, inside you, none of them needing to explain their presence. They are you, and you are them. And tonight, you are finally whole. You sit in that circle. Let time dissolve. There is no rush, no clock, no next, just now, just this. And the stillness becomes something sacred, a silence filled with truth. You feel the breath of every version of you sink into rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, like waves, like music, like love that never left. And then you open your eyes, and the room is gone. Not because it faded, because it became you, because it was never a room. It was your inner world, the place you never thought you could return to until you were ready to meet yourself there. And you did. Every version, every voice, every silence, every memory. And now you carry it all forward, not as weight, as wisdom, not as burden, as blessing, not as story, as soul. You step out of the space that held your healing and into the life that waited. But it's different now. You don't move quickly. You don't chase. You don't perform. You simply walk, softly, fully, truthfully. And as you do, the light follows you. Because here's what you've remembered. You are not your mistakes. You are not your missing pieces. You are not the absence of what could have been. You are the presence of what is. You are the one who returned, who stayed long enough to listen, to feel, to forgive, to soften, to open, to breathe. You are not here to fix everything. You are here to be everything you already are. And tonight, you came home. You sit in now, wherever you are, and your breath slows. Not because you're tired, because you're safe. The journey didn't end. It simply changed shape. You close your eyes one last time and whisper to yourself, the part of you that never left, even when you did. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. And that is enough. That is everything. That is peace. End of story. Thank you for taking this journey. You've walked through memory, silence, grief, joy, truth, and finally, wholeness. Let the light stay with you now, even after sleep comes.